Hi everybody, it's me, Willow, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we will be reviewing the new film, The Drama. I'm excited to discuss this film with you guys. It was honestly crazy. This is from writer-director Kristoffer Borgli. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He is a Norwegian writer-director from the fame of Sick of Me, and then his other English language film, which is Dream Scenario with Nicolas Cage. Those are his two most recent and biggest films and have kind of been pushing him more into the Hollywood industry as he is a pretty indie director kind of coming up and working with Nicolas Cage and now working with Zendaya and Robert Pattinson, definitely starting to throw himself into the limelight. I do want to say I really did enjoy this film. I was a big fan of Dream Scenario as well. I saw that in the theater and it was one of my favorite films of 2024. I saw it basically at the very end of 2024 and I enjoyed it so much. I do think it was in my top 5 films of the year, so I really did love that film. And going into this film, I was definitely expecting a bit of craziness because Dream Scenario is pretty off its rockers at some points, specifically kind of near the end, and it's just definitely insane. But I loved it so much and how it was so balls to the walls. And I definitely think the drama is also balls to the walls and just really throws itself into its themes, into its ideas, and really poses a lot of intriguing questions to its audience. Before we really dive into the spoiler review, I do want to address the little controversy that is going on with Kristoffer right now. I do feel like it is kind of prevalent, and I should discuss it just a little quickly. Basically, when he was 27 years old, the writer-director Kristoffer wrote this essay for this very prominent magazine in Norway. And it was about this May-December relationship he had with this 17-year-old girl at the time, so 10-year age difference. And I did read the essay. Of course, it is a translation. I don't speak Norwegian at all, so it's very I wouldn't be able to read the original text. So I did read a translation, but it is kind of disturbing, this essay, especially if you are not a person who's really into age gap relationships like myself. The idea of a 10-year age gap between a 17-year-old and a 27-year-old is pretty disturbing, and especially just how he poses a lot of his writing in the essay. I am going to link down below the Hollywood Reporter article that I read that had the translation, so I will put it for you guys to read yourself. But I do think it's interesting that kind of what he was posing in the article of how he kind of knew that this was a bad idea and that his friends were telling him that this was not a good idea, but he decided to listen to Woody Allen, of all people, after watching Manhattan. And yeah, I just think it's kind of crazy justification, especially for a 27-year-old. I'm 25 and I can never think of dating a 15-year-old or a 17-year-old, that 10-year age gap, or being 17. I would just never. And using oh, the heart wants what the heart wants type thing is, I don't feel, is very justified. And I do find it a little disturbing that these questions that he kind of poses in his essay are actually kind of posed in the film. The idea of empathy, and do you judge people after they admit their most heinous thing they've ever done? I feel this is almost PR for the film, if I'm being honest. This came out so such weird timing, very coincidental, and it's admitting the worst thing he's ever done, possibly. And it questions you. It's oh, did you ever really know this person from who you thought you were, at an outside perspective of a director? I don't know him very well, obviously. I just know him from one film, but you kind of trust people when you love and believe in their art. And I just think it's very interesting how he's posing like, oh, she was May and I was December, and the heart wants what it wants. And it was my most exotic summer. And I feel like that glorification is like almost kind of posed in the drama as well, which I find very interesting, disturbing, like repulsed. Yeah, it's very, very like getting my mind thinking a lot. So I did feel like I should address the controversy that is surrounding the director before we dive into the film. Just I do feel like it kind of plays hand in hand. So I will obviously I went and saw the film. I did pay with it my own money. I do feel like a little weird about it, but yeah, I'm not going to justify what he did, in my YouTube video reviewing his film, but I did feel like it was relevant to address it. If you guys want to discuss it more in the comments below, I'm definitely open to hearing everybody's thoughts. I have heard a lot of different think pieces about it in the last couple days as this controversy has been rising on Reddit and on TikTok and stuff. So if you want to talk more about it, let me know in the comments, but I will dive into the film now. As I said, I did thoroughly enjoy the film and the questions that it's posing about who we are as people, what type of judgment we want to lend towards people, and in the same sense, what type of empathy we want to lend to people. I feel like that word empathy is used a lot in the film to describe Emma, who's Zendaya's character, specifically from Charlie, played by Robert Pattinson, and this dynamic between them. And we see the word empathy, we see him erase it, and also the idea of repulsion and thinking we know these people and then understanding that they're more multi-layered and maybe we don't actually know these people that we think that we love the most. And when you are revealed something about them, you rethink every little thing that you've done with that person and everything's recontextualized in your brain. And I just thought this film was so well done and was written very well. And I thought it was shot very well as well. And I loved the beginning approach of the film, that it was very much like this rom-com. We're going in, this couple just seems so easy breezy, little meet cute, everything seems to be going super well. But there was little inklings that things were array. And first we have our rehearsal for our dancing, and our dance instructor is just so on edge. And I was like, what is her problem? What's going on? This couple is just carefree and it's happy. And it's how often do you see a couple like this, who's not arguing at their dance rehearsal? I feel like couples often maybe argue at those things. And you see a couple who's actually so lovey-dovey and want to kind of do some improv and really, embrace the moment. But I really thought back of the idea of performativeness and how they mention this feels very performative, and the instructor goes, well, it's a wedding, of course it's performative. And Emma's very repulsed by that and the idea of performing, and then comes to be is oh, was Emma performing this whole time? Are us as humans performing to other humans all the time? Are we actually being fully genuine and truthful with everybody? Are we revealing our deepest, darkest secrets? No. But does that mean we're not genuine, not truthful, and everything's kind of going okay? And then we're at the wine tasting, and that stuff is ticked as well. And you can just tell the vibes are kind of off. There's an underbelly, kind of boiling. And then our couple and their maid of honor, groomsmen, they're having a good old chat over wine. Everybody's revealing stuff about themselves, getting things off their chest, and it all starts too with their DJ and understanding how far, the judgment you're willing to pose on these people. And it's the DJ, I do think that's so intriguing that this all kind of starts with the DJ, of how they're walking home from their dance class and they see who they think is their wedding DJ smoking heroin on the street. And they don't approach her, they just think it's her because they see her. It's dark out. So then they're also kind of questioning, but they're like, it has to be her. And they bring it up to their friends, the groomsmen, and the maid of honor, played by Alana Haim, and Mamadou Ache. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. That's what it said on the internet. So let me know if I'm saying his name right. But I really liked both of those characters, and they're kind of having this little wine discussion, and they're kind of posing the idea of should we fire the DJ, and they're kind of going back and forth between being judgmental and kind of giving her empathy, and Emma really wants to fire her, but it's kind of going back and forth between maybe we shouldn't fire her, and Charlie really wants to fire her, and it's all confusing, and they're like, what should we do? And then, Rachel, who's Alana, comes up like, oh, tell them about the dog, come on, to Mamadou. And Mamadou doesn't want to tell the story. And we hear this like terrible story of how, when Mamadou was, a long time ago in like another relationship, and he like used his old girlfriend as like a human shield when they were getting attacked by a dog. And then that leads Rachel, Alana, to reveal that when she was like 15 years old or like 13 or something, she like went into the forest with this like neighbor of hers who was kind of mentally challenged, had some sort of disability, and she locked him in this like abandoned RV all by himself, and she ran away. And then there was this whole search party to find him, and she never got in trouble and never revealed anything. And then we hear Emma, and she comes forth and she says that she thought about planning a mass shooting, and it just completely changes the trajectory of the film and everything. It's like a needle drops. You're like, wait, what did you just say? It's like planning a mass shooting compared to like locking somebody up in an RV and then being found eventually, and like using your girlfriend as a human shield for a dog attack. It's like those are like completely terrible things, and I think they also kind of get sidelined for Emma's thing. But it's like Emma is definitely a different trajectory, and it's also kind of posing this idea. It's like, but she didn't go through with it, and she's like kind of trying to like justify her actions, and you're like, do you hold a 15-year-old accountable or do you not? And you kind of reveal some things. She tries to explain herself of how she was moved around a lot when she was younger because her father was in the military, and she was bullied. And then you hear some of the bullying and you're like, but like, is that like bullying that justifies like this mental snap of a person to go, yeah, let me become so violent and take it out like in such a cruel and malicious, like just definitely insane, crime, federal offensive, even thinking about it, writing a list, that could be something that could get you definitely in like juvenile or jail, some sort of crime, punishment, and rehabilitation, and I just think, and like the idea that Charlie's character is also from England, so he's Robert Pattinson, gets to do his British accent. He's not playing an American, so there's like this culture aspect as well. And I was thinking about that entire time, and then they actually verbally bring it up, and he's like, but like he's trying to justify it to himself, and he's like, but it's like an American culture, like that just happens for teens, and Rachel just not. She's like laying the ground, and she's like, my cousin was paralyzed in a shooting, and you're realizing, yeah, this is something we really can't justify. But then you're also like, yeah, and like Emma's trying to explain why her reasoning when she was 15, she's like explaining like the aesthetic and how she thought it was appealing and how it was all on the internet. And they kind of bring up the idea of like, oh, it's just like male mass shooters. And when she was younger, she mentions, no, there are women mass shooters. And she specifically brings up this one mass shooter about the song I Hate Mondays. Like, I'm not very educated on that, but my friend that I went with, she was talking about that. And because she studied mass shootings in university because she is a history criminology major. So she kind of like did some sort of course on that, and she did kind of go into depth about that certain shooter. So she thought that was a very interesting point of the film, and trying to dissect this culture and how we think this like violent gun crime is only appealing to men, but it's actually affecting the young minds of women as well. Maybe not be like the video game demographic or whatever, that reasoning for like, say, like Columbine or a lot of other, school shootings. I feel like that is a very baseless accusation, but that kind of gets posed a lot. And just like also seeing Emma, like her father being in the military, how she had access to these deadly weapons, like a rifle. She was able to just carry it around in the home, into the woods. She was able to like practice with it. And she was obviously left alone. Like her parents weren't around. She had to like get dinner and stuff by herself. Like she was left money by her parents. And like I was, you're trying to justify and give empathy to this child, and yeah, they didn't go through it, but then they're performative. They start becoming an activist against gun violence, and they want to create gun reform, and you're like, what is going on? And it's very, very nuts. Very, very nuts. And you're just hearing all the different perspectives, and you're trying to really understand all the different perspectives. And I'm Canadian, so I do feel a little bit of an outsider. Like we are very close to America, and obviously North America, not just like the US. Like we do have a lot of crossover with our culture, and definitely gun violence is starting to get a little bit more prevalent in Canada. We have had a mass shooting in BC recently that was very, very like tragic. It was very fatal. It took the lives of a lot of people. And there was like a shooting out in Nova Scotia, I believe, a couple years ago, one of the east provinces. And but again, it's not as prevalent as in the US. So I do feel like this is like a very distinct like US culture shock. And their social media, what happens, and trying to justify these people. And I also was like kind of thinking of like Crash, also at the same time, David Lynch's film, David Cronenberg's film. Oh my goodness, the Canadian, of course, like oh my, and so I was thinking of Crash as I was thinking of the drama, and I was just thinking of like the justification that some of these people have, like that inkling. And of course, they are adults, but I think it's also kind of posed this question that there are so many people out there who have these inklings, these dangerous and violent compulsions, and they've experienced pain, or maybe they just have like this desire because of the culture that surrounds them, and they go forth with this impulse. And do they end up killing people as a result? And that's kind of a thing that's being posed in Crash. Like obviously Crash is a little bit more kind of like psychosexual as well. This is obviously different, a little bit more cemented into reality, but I do think there is a little bit of a psychological aspect to this film, and kind of there is like almost like a psychosexual aspect to the film as well too, because Charlie comes across this book that is Charlie works as the head curator for the Cambridge American Museum. Was that the one he works at? And obviously very high prominent. He's very educated, obviously in some sort of like fine art or history. And he comes across this like book of women posed very like sexually with like assault rifles or pistols, or any sort of like assault rifle or firearm. And obviously there is some sort of like analysis to that. I can't remember what the book was called, but obviously it probably dives deep into American culture and this fascination. And he starts like imagining Emma in that way as well. And I also have to give props to the young actress who plays the younger version of Emma, Jordan Cruet. Hopefully that's how you say her name. She was fantastic. They also kind of had some like interesting scenes with her and Robert Pattinson and him kind of imagining his current life with that younger version of Emma and him kind of thinking like, has she ever like, is she that like same person that she was when she was 15 now here in front of him as this 30-year-old that he's going to marry, that he's been with for 2 years, growing this relationship? Is she actually this like deranged, insane person who wanted to commit this horrific, violent act and kind of seeming, for not a whole lot of like there's no good reason, for a shooting. Like that's the fact, plain and simple. And I think Rachel really does kind of represent that. And like it's so hard, like being an outsider, like being Canadian, being somebody from the UK, and then Charlie has empathy for her and he loves her and he wants to try and move past this, and but he's also like repulsed by it and he doesn't know how to move past this, and he like they don't think they can move past it, so they try to restart their relationship more times, like one time in the middle, one time at the very end. And I feel like that ending kind of shows that there really is no hope for this couple and maybe they aren't going to be able to last. Like I don't think they would be able to last. I would think maybe Charlie would try and give her the benefit of the doubt for a little bit going forward, but I do think everybody, once the truth fully came forward, it would just like destroy them and Emma would end up having to start from scratch somewhere else, and same with Charlie. So I do think it's very interesting because it's kind of asking all these questions from us as the audience, being like, can we justify this? Like, we kind of created this with American culture. So, like, do we extend this empathy to this child? But then at the same time, I feel like 15 years old is like, of course, like your brain isn't fully developed, but we do need to hold teenagers responsible for their actions at that age. And I feel like 15, even though you are very vulnerable and you can make very crazy mistakes, like you are, starting to move towards like your learner's permit. In certain places in the world, you can start to like drink in places like in Europe, I think like 16 years old. The age of consent in Canada, and as the age like medical is 16, you take all ownership over your life at 16 years old. Your parents cannot make decisions for you. So like you obviously start to hold a lot more responsibility in those transitioning years as a teen. So like but we can't hold it all on her. Like what was she exposed to? Obviously she was super isolated and she wasn't like parented very well, but then she does have like a good head on her shoulders. It seems like she was able to move past, and but like was it all a performance? Like do you really know this person that you're going to marry? And does one honest reveal change everything going forward? I really think that this film like leaves you with this twist and you're like, how can we move forward? It's just so insane. It's so wild, and I just really do love it. And I had such an amazing time at the theater. I really loved getting to see this. Just no like spoilers. I'm glad that I was able to stay spoiler free because I just think you would not enjoy this film if you have seen the reviews and you got spoiled like on Reddit or something, because yeah, it just really plays into a lot of thinking about culture and the actions we take, and specifically where we are right now in 2026. And I think the questions that we try to justify to ourselves, to others. Like Rachel, like she just can't, she has no sympathy whatsoever. And Charlie's just like so caught in the middle. And I really liked his conversation with Misha, who's played by Haley Bennett Gates. She's here as well. I love her, my Viceland girl. She was also in The Moment. She's in Challengers. I love her. Love that she's getting in a lot of stuff right now, but love her Viceland show. But she is like working at the museum with Charlie, obviously a co-worker, maybe like an assistant or something. And he kind of hypothetically asks her, you know, if your boyfriend told you that he was planning this mass shooting when he was 15, but he never did it, you know, that's the important part, he never did it, what would you do? And she says, well, I think I would call the police. You know, he's huge. He could easily kill me. And then he's thinking about all the instances where, you know, they've had like kind of maybe like violent sex, or she got mad at like a taxi driver when they're trying to cross, all these crazy instances that they've gone through where she got a little bit more violent. And he starts to break down and he fully starts crying, and then they have like a sexual moment between each other. They start making out and they're about to have sex, and he stops it, breaks down. And both me and my friend didn't like that they made him kind of like a cheater. I don't fully blame him for that because I do think he was like kind of losing it. And obviously, you make bad decisions. Obviously, not everybody would do that, but I do feel like they were trying to put them on the same like playing field, making him seem like he has done something pretty bad to ruin the relationship. But honestly, at that part, I feel like everything was just like in the trash, and whatever he did or she did, like nothing was going to solve Emma and Charlie. So Charlie making that poor decision to start making out with Misha, and then maybe they were going to move forward more. Like, I just didn't love it. I just felt like they were trying to even play the field, and I feel like at that point we should have just kept Emma the villain and maybe have Charlie just be completely gut wrenched and not know what to do. I feel like that would have been more interesting, in my opinion. I guess they wanted to add a little bit more spice, a little bit more drama for the end, but I feel like if they were in that diner scene and he had come there with his full emotions and he hadn't cheated, it would have been a little bit more impacted. Um, I also think it's interesting that Zoe Winters is here as well as a photographer. Love her from Succession, and then she was also in Materialist last year, another A24 film, which I also thought this film kind of looked similar, like it had similar cinematography in a sense, like that New York brightness. I don't know if it's just like A24 or whatever, but it's it was a little comparable with that, but I do think there was some interesting stuff that Kristoffer did, like using Emma because she's deaf in one ear. We kind of get some like silent moments, some interesting audio sound stuff, which I enjoyed. And we do have some interesting like flashback dream stuff, which I think is intriguing and is used pretty well with like the twist and adding to our tension in the build up. I do love that as well. Like I do think there are some interesting artistic choices with the directing in this film and how we go forth with the whole vision and what we're trying to put forth. And I did really enjoy it. I do think the performances from Zendaya and specifically Robert Pattinson, my friend pointed him out. She really loved his performance, and I would agree. I do think this is one of his best performances in a while, but I do honestly really love him in everything. He's definitely one of my favorite actors. Just like growing up with him from Harry Potter to Twilight to his David Cronenberg film to Mickey 17 last year, and now he's going to be in Dune. He's going to be in the Odyssey. He's going to be in something else, I think, too. I think he has like four films coming out this year, maybe 4 or 5. Both him and Zendaya are just so packed, and I just love the range for both of them. I feel like they are definitely, obviously, Robert has been a little bit more into like adult, mature stuff for quite a while, maybe the last like 15 years, working on that, really trying to build his resume as a serious auteur actor. And I definitely think Zendaya is trying to hit her stride and prove herself. She has her Emmy, and Euphoria season 3 comes out this Sunday, which is like nuts to me that it's back. And obviously, she's going to be in the Odyssey as well. She's going to be in Spider-Man. She has like four or five films coming out this year as well. So obviously, she's starting to grow up and mature more, like with Euphoria and with her last couple films. I'm like blanking on what they've been, but growing up from like The Greatest Showman and from the Spider-Man movies and just staking her place. They're both like in their 30s now. They're really trying to grow as actors and prove themselves, and I think they definitely are doing that in this film. I think their ensemble is doing that as well, really helping to balance them out. I just think this film is so hilarious, fantastic black comedy. You will laugh your socks off, just the jokes in this film. Like one of the jokes, like the idea, the publicist, like there's this one joke when they're talking about the DJ and Emma's trying to like justify her heroin use, and Rachel go, "What are you, her publicist now?" And I just thought that was hilarious. So definitely a really smartly written film. I'll be interested to see like what other people think after this weekend ends, and if this is going to be a hit or if people just like don't mash with it. I've already seen Parkland shooting survivors kind of coming out and discussing it, so I wonder what is the reaction is going to be to this like shooting theme, like this American culture, this idea of like saying something and never being able to put it back in, like toothpaste, squeezing the toothpaste. You can't put the toothpaste back in once it's out. I think it's very intriguing, but I do think it's going to pose a lot of questions and a lot of conversations and discussions. So make sure you start that down below in the comments as well, because I'd love to hear all you guys' thoughts. I do think this film is pretty off the walls, but I did enjoy it pretty thoroughly. So let me know what you guys thought of the film down below. I would love to hear your discussion. And while you're at it, make sure you hit the subscribe button and post notification button so you don't miss out on any of my future content, including more movie reviews and pop culture. And I'm really trying to dive into like different stuff right now since award season has died down. So give me suggestions of what you want to see. If you guys have movies I want to watch, somebody suggested me watch Miles and Kicks, so I'm going to definitely try and get to see that in the next couple weeks and do a review for it. I did have somebody ask for a March recap of what I watched for the month, so going to try and get to that in the next week or so as well. So yeah, make sure you guys are subscribed so you don't miss out on the content. If you enjoyed my review of the drama, please give it a thumbs up, because all of your guys' interaction really helps to grow my channel, helps me with my outreach. I am on other social media platforms. You can find me at Willow D Steele on any social media platform. You can find me on Letterboxd, which will have a review for the drama on there as well. I'm also on Serialized, so if you guys are into TV stuff like Love Story, Jury Duty, I'm reviewing all of that stuff over there. Daredevil, Born Again. Make sure you guys are following me on Serialized so you can see all that content. I'm on TikTok. I am on Instagram. I'm on the Awards Expert app as we roll into May in the next couple weeks with Cannes. It's going to be very exciting. That app will start to get bubbling more, so make sure you go give me some love on all my social media. You'll find me at Willow D Steele very easily on all of those platforms. So thank you so much for the love. Like I mentioned, really helps me to grow, and I'm so grateful for all the love and support as we get to grow this huge movie community of all of us lovers and cinephiles. So thank you so much. I'm really grateful for all the love and engagement, and let me know what you guys thought of the drama. I would love to hear all you guys' thoughts, and I always try to reply back to the comments. So thank you guys so much. Until my next video, make sure you guys keep getting lost in film. Bye, guys.